the last gift from a mother who had nothing left? She gave him everything she had, even when she had nothing left for herself. Not comfort, not peace, not even rest for her tired body. Only love, endless, silent, and painful love. And on the last day of her life, she did something so unforgettable, that her son carried it in his heart forever. In a small forgotten city where dreams often struggle to survive, lived a poor woman named Sara. She was not famous, not wealthy, not powerful. She was just a mother. And with her lived her only world, her 8-year-old son, Omar. They lived in a tiny rented room. The kind of room where walls are cracked, the roof leaks during rain, and silence feels heavy at night. There was no luxury in their life, no comfort, no security. Only struggle, and hope. Sara worked as a cleaner in different houses across the city. Every morning before sunrise, she would quietly wake up so her son wouldn't hear her leaving. She would tie her worn-out scarf, take a deep breath, and step into a world that never treated her kindly. She cleaned floors that were not hers. She washed dishes that were not hers. She polished homes that she could never afford. People would sometimes ignore her, sometimes order her harshly, and sometimes treat her like she didn't matter. But Sara never answered back. She never complained. Because every insult she swallowed was for one reason, her son. At night, when she returned home exhausted, her hands aching and her back bent with pain, she would still smile as soon as she saw Omar. And every night she would say the same words with the same hope in her voice, "Don't worry, my son, one day your life will be better than mine." Omar believed her completely. To him, his mother was not weak. She was his hero. His world. His strength. Omar had one dream. He wanted to study in a good school. Not a broken classroom with broken benches, but a proper school where children wore clean uniforms and had books full of knowledge. He wanted to become someone important one day so he could take his mother out of poverty forever. But dreams cost money, and money was something they never had enough of. One afternoon, Omar came home earlier than usual. His eyes were filled with tears, and his small hands were trembling. Sara immediately understood something was wrong. She knelt in front of him and asked softly, "What happened, my son?" Omar looked down and said in a broken voice, "Ammi, they said I can't come to school anymore, because the fees are not paid." For a moment, everything became silent. Even the old fan above them seemed to stop making noise. Sara didn't speak. She just looked at her son, trying to hold her emotions inside her chest. Then she gently pulled him closer and said nothing. Because she knew, if she spoke, she might break. That night, Sara could not sleep. She kept looking at her son as he slept peacefully, unaware of the storm inside his mother's heart. And for the first time in her life, Sara cried silently. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quiet tears falling into her tired hands. From that day, something changed inside her. Sara began working even harder than before. She took extra cleaning jobs in more houses. She worked early mornings, late nights, sometimes without proper food or rest. Her hands started hurting badly from chemicals, her feet swelled, her body became weak, but she never stopped. Every time she felt like collapsing, she would whisper to herself, "Just a little more, for Omar." Days turned into weeks. Slowly, her health started breaking down. She became thinner, paler, always tired. But she never let Omar see her pain. Every morning she would still smile and say, "Go to school, my son. I'm fine." But she wasn't fine at all. One day, after countless struggles, Sara finally managed to collect enough money for Omar's school fee. She held that money tightly in her hands as if it was the most precious thing in the world. Not because of its value, but because of what it meant. When she came home that evening, Omar was sitting quietly. She called him softly, and when he looked at her, she said with a tired but beautiful smile, "Pack your bag, you are going back to school." For a moment, Omar didn't believe it. Then suddenly, his face lit up with joy. "Really, Ammi?" Sara nodded. Omar ran to her and hugged her tightly. "You are the best mother in the world." Sara closed her eyes while holding him. That moment felt like peace after years of pain. But deep inside her, her body felt strange. Weak. As if something inside her was slowly giving up. That night, the air felt heavier than usual. Sara felt extremely tired. She sat quietly in a corner holding her chest for a moment, trying to breathe normally. Omar noticed and asked, "Ammi, are you okay?" She forced a smile and said, "Yes, my son. I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Late at night, her condition suddenly worsened. Her breathing became heavy, her hands started shaking, and she could no longer stand properly. In a weak voice she called, "Omar." Panic filled the room. Omar ran outside screaming for help. Neighbors rushed in. Someone called an ambulance. Everything became chaos in a few minutes. Sara was taken to the hospital immediately. Omar stood outside crying, his small hands pressed against the hospital door, calling her again and again, "Amy, please don't leave me." Inside the hospital room, doctors tried everything they could. But Sara's body had already reached its limit. Years of hunger, stress, pain, and sacrifice had finally caught up to her. When Sara opened her eyes, she saw Omar through the glass window. Her lips trembled as she whispered his name. The doctors allowed him inside for a moment. Omar rushed to her side and held her hand tightly. It was cold. Too cold. "Amy, I'm here." Sara looked at him slowly, memorizing every detail of his face as if she wanted to keep it forever. She gathered her remaining strength and said, "Promise me, you will study, and never give up, no matter what happens in life." Omar was crying uncontrollably. "I don't want anything without you, Amy." Sara's eyes filled with tears. She touched his cheek gently and said softly, "I will always be with you, in your success." Her hand slowly lost strength. Her breathing slowed. Her eyes slowly closed. And in that moment, her story ended. Omar cried for hours, calling her name again and again, but she never responded. After her death, life became empty for him. Days passed like shadows. Nights felt endless. But one day, he remembered her last promise. And something inside him changed. He went back to school. Every day he studied with pain in his heart but determination in his soul. On every notebook, he wrote one line. "I am studying, because my mother stopped living for me." Years later, that boy would grow up to become successful. But no matter how high he reached in life, he never forgot the hands that once cleaned floors so he could touch his future. Because some mothers don't leave behind money, they leave behind sacrifice. And sacrifice is the most powerful love in the world.
Your support gives us strength to create more stories. Please like and subscribe.